The ancient crystal sat buried beneath 3 meters of red dust on the dead world of Kepler 442c. It had waited there for 12,000 years, silent and patient, like a trap set by ghosts. Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire kicked at the strange rocks around the excavation site. His boots crunched on the brittle surface as he watched his science team work. The planet was worthless. No atmosphere, no water, no life. But the energy readings from deep underground had been too strong to ignore. "Sir, we've reached the source," called out Dr. Kelvash, the lead archaeologist. Sweat dripped down his scaled face despite the environmental suit's cooling system. "You need to see this." Vextar climbed down into the pit they had dug. At the bottom, partially exposed, was something that made his breath catch. A crystal formation the size of a small building rose from the ancient bedrock. Its surface was perfectly smooth, covered in patterns that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking, directly at them. "What is it?" Vextar asked, running his gloved hand along the crystal's surface. It felt warm even through the thick material of his suit. "Unknown, sir. The material doesn't match anything in our databases. The energy signature is unlike anything we've ever encountered, but sir..." Dr. Kelvash paused, checking his scanner again. "This thing is old. Really old. Older than the Zephyrian Empire. Older than any known civilization." "How old?" "At least 12,000 years, sir. Maybe more." Vextar felt a chill run down his spine. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past 5 centuries. They had cataloged every major civilization in their sector of the galaxy. But this was something from before, something from the dark ages when the galaxy was young and wild. "Can we move it?" he asked. "It's too big, sir, too integrated with the planetary crust, but we could try to activate it here, study it, learn from it. The Empire will want to know everything about this technology," Vextar said, his mind already racing with possibilities. Ancient technology often meant advanced technology. Advanced technology meant power, and power meant expansion. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Zexvan, the communications officer, "we're getting strange readings from the crystal. It's responding to our presence." As if summoned by his words, the crystal began to glow, soft at first, then brighter, until the entire excavation site was bathed in blue-white light. The patterns on its surface moved faster now, swirling like water in a drain. "Everyone back," Vextar shouted, but it was too late. The crystal pulsed once, twice, then released a wave of energy that knocked everyone in the pit to their knees. The blast wasn't harmful. It felt warm, almost gentle, but it was clearly beyond their understanding. "What just happened?" Vextar gasped, pulling himself to his feet. Dr. Kelvash was staring at his instruments in amazement. "Sir, the crystal has activated itself. It's drawing power from somewhere. The energy output is increasing exponentially." "Is it dangerous?" "I don't think so, sir. It seems controlled, like it's following some kind of program." The crystal pulsed again, and this time something extraordinary happened. A beam of pure energy shot up from its peak, piercing through the planet's thin atmosphere and disappearing into space. The beam was invisible to the naked eye, but their instruments detected it clearly. "Where is it going?" Vextar demanded. Tate Zexvan worked frantically at his portable communications array. "Sir, the beam is broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Simultaneously, it's a signal, a very powerful signal." "Broadcasting what?" "Unknown, sir. The pattern is too complex for our systems to decode. But, sir, this signal is strong enough to reach across the entire galaxy." Vextar stared up at the invisible beam shooting into the star-filled sky above them. Somewhere out there, someone or something would receive this message. The thought should have excited him. First contact with an unknown civilization was every explorer's dream. But something about the crystal made him uneasy. "Sir," Dr. Kelvash said quietly, "I've been thinking about the age of this device. 12,000 years ago, this sector of the galaxy was supposed to be empty. No major civilizations, no advanced technology. So who built this? And why did they bury it here?" "Maybe they didn't bury it," Lieutenant Zexvan said, looking at his readings. Maybe this whole planet grew up around it. Maybe it's been broadcasting this whole time, and we just activated it by being here. The crystal pulsed again, brighter than before. The signal continued streaming into space, carrying its ancient message to destinations unknown. "Sir," Dr. Kelvash said, his voice filled with growing concern. "What if this isn't a communication device? What if it's something else entirely?" "Like what?" "Like a beacon, a warning, or—" He paused, checking his instruments again. "Or a dinner bell." Commander Vextar felt ice form in his stomach. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, something had just received their message. Something that had been waiting 12,000 years for someone to ring this bell. He had the terrible feeling they were about to find out what answered when you called. 3 months after the crystal's activation, the signal reached Earth's deep space monitoring station Luna 7. Dr. Kim Hana was drinking her 3rd cup of coffee when the computers started screaming warnings. "What the hell?" she muttered, nearly spilling the hot liquid on her keyboard. The energy signature on her screen was unlike anything she had seen in 15 years of monitoring deep space. "Director Park," she called across the cramped monitoring station. "You need to see this right now." Director Park Minho rushed over, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. He had been reviewing budget reports, the most boring part of his job. But the look on Hana's face told him his quiet evening was over. "Show me," he said, pulling up a chair beside her workstation. "This signal came from the Kepler 442 system," Hana explained, pointing at the display. "It's artificial. Definitely artificial. The pattern is too complex, too organized to be natural." Park studied the readings carefully. After 20 years in space monitoring, he could tell the difference between a dying star and a radio telescope. This was neither. "How far away?" he asked. "About 400 light-years. The signal is incredibly powerful to reach us from that distance." "Any idea what it says?" Hana shook her head. "The pattern is too complex for our current systems to decode. But Park, this isn't just a radio signal. This thing is broadcasting on 17 different frequencies at once. Whoever sent this has technology we don't understand." Park felt his heart rate increase. First contact. After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, it might finally be happening. But something bothered him about the signal's origin point. "Kepler 442, he said slowly. "Wasn't that system surveyed by the Kepler Space Telescope years ago?" "Yes, sir, dead system, no habitable planets, no signs of life. That's what makes this so strange." Park made his decision. "Get me Admiral Choi at Earth Command, Priority 1 communication, and Hana. Start working on decoding that signal. I want to know what they're trying to tell us." 2 weeks later, Admiral Choi Daehyun stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, humanity's most advanced diplomatic vessel. The ship was beautiful but not intimidating. Sleek lines, white hull plating, and peaceful blue running lights. It had been designed specifically for first contact situations. "Admiral," Captain Song Minji reported from her station, "we're approaching the Kepler 442 system. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple artificial signatures." "How many ships?" Choi asked, straightening his dress uniform. First impressions mattered in diplomacy. 37 vessels, sir. Various sizes. They appear to be in defensive formations around the 4th planet. Choi nodded. That made sense. If unknown aliens had suddenly appeared in Earth's solar system, humanity would probably form defensive positions too. Signal the fleet to maintain peaceful formations. Weapons powered down, shields at minimum. We're here to talk, not fight. The small human fleet consisted of 5 ships. The diplomatic vessel Harmony, 2 escort frigates Seoul and Busan, and 2 science vessels Tokyo and Mumbai. Not exactly a threatening force, but enough to show they were serious. "Sir, communications," Officer Nam Yuna called out. "We're being scanned by the alien vessels. Very thorough scans." "Let them look," Choi replied. "We have nothing to hide. Open all communication channels and begin transmitting the Universal Peace Codes." The Universal Peace Codes were humanity's best guess at how to communicate peaceful intentions to an alien species. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and simple diagrams that any technological civilization should recognize. For 30 minutes, the human fleet broadcast their peaceful messages while slowly approaching the alien formation. Choi was beginning to think they were being ignored when the first plasma bolt streaked past the Harmony's bow. "Warning shot?" Captain Song asked hopefully. Her answer came in the form of a full salvo from 6 alien ships. The bridge shook as energy weapons struck their shields. "Evasive maneuvers!" Choi shouted. "All ships, defensive positions. Do not return fire." "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lee Jisoo called from the weapons station. "They're not stopping. Multiple, targeting locks on all our vessels." The Soul took the worst of it. The escort frigate's shields failed under concentrated fire, and hull breaches began venting atmosphere into space. "Admiral," Captain Song said urgently, "the Soul is in trouble. Captain Yoon is requesting permission to return fire." Choi watched the tactical display as more enemy ships joined the attack. 37 alien vessels against 5 human ships. The numbers were bad, but that wasn't what bothered him most. What bothered him was that these aliens had opened fire, without even trying to communicate. "Sir," Nam Yuna reported, "Captain Yoon says the Soul has lost main power. They're dead in space." "That's enough," Choi said quietly, then louder. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when you attack." A peaceful diplomatic mission. The change was immediate and devastating. The human ships, which had seemed helpless moments before, suddenly revealed their true nature. Kinetic weapons that had been disguised as communication arrays opened fire with frightening precision. Nuclear-tipped missiles launched from hidden bays. The alien formation, which had been confidently advancing, suddenly found itself outgunned and outmaneuvered. Human weapons, crude-looking but devastatingly effective, tore through their energy shields like they were made of paper. "Sir," Captain Song reported with grim satisfaction, "enemy formation is breaking apart. 15 vessels destroyed, 12 more heavily damaged. The survivors are retreating." "Let them go," Choi ordered, watching the alien ships flee toward their home planet. "They need to tell their people what just happened here." He looked at the burning wreckage floating in space and sighed. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and it had ended in violence. But they had tried peace first. Now the aliens would have to decide what came next. High Commander Thakmor stood in the great war chamber of Zephyr Prime, staring at the holographic display of the battle. The images played over and over. Human. Ships destroying half his border fleet with weapons that looked primitive, but hit like the fist of an angry god. "Play it again," he growled to his aide. War leader Vel Nash activated the recording once more. They watched as the sleek alien vessels, which had seemed so peaceful moments before, suddenly unleashed hell. Kinetic weapons that moved faster than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. Missiles that somehow passed through energy shields as if they weren't there. How is this possible? Thakmor slammed his clawed fist on the tactical table. "Our shields have protected us for 500 years of conquest. Nothing gets through them." "Sir," Dr. Rixnall, the chief weapons scientist, stepped forward nervously. "We've analyzed the wreckage. The human weapons are different. They use solid projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds, not energy beams. Our shields were designed to deflect plasma and laser fire. These kinetic weapons just punch right through." "And the missiles?" "Nuclear weapons, sir. Very sophisticated ones. They detonate close to our ships and overwhelm the shields with pure energy output. It's crude but effective." Thakmor's mandibles clicked in frustration. For centuries, the Zephyrian Empire had swept across the galaxy, conquering world after world. Their technology was superior, their tactics proven. How could these unknown humans with their primitive ballistic weapons destroy an entire fleet? "Sir," Communications Officer Velthar interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessels." "Put it through." The hologram flickered and resolved into the image of a human male in a dark blue uniform. He looked calm, almost bored. When he spoke, the translation system rendered his words in perfect Zephyrian. "Zephyrian forces, this is Admiral Choi of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. We came here in peace to establish contact with your species. You responded by attacking a peaceful mission and killing 300 of our people. This was a mistake. Thakmor leaned forward. I am High Commander Thakmor of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your vessels immediately or face the full power of our military. The human's expression didn't change. Commander, you seem to misunderstand the situation. What you just fought was not our military. It was our greeting party. 5 ships and a handshake. You chose violence instead of diplomacy. Now you will face the consequences of that choice. Threats? Thakmor's voice rose. You dare threaten the Zephyrian Empire with 5 ships? Not 5 ships, Commander. Those 5 ships were just the beginning. You rang the bell. Now Earth is coming to your door. The transmission ended abruptly. Thakmor stared at the empty hologram for a long moment. War Leader Velnash, he said finally, mobilize every fleet in the Empire. Call in forces from all 47 conquered worlds. If these humans want war, we'll give them a war they'll never forget. Meanwhile, 400 light-years away, President Yoon Sora sat in the emergency session of the Global Defense Council in Geneva. The massive conference room was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth, their faces grim as they listened to Admiral Choi's report via quantum communication. 300 dead, Admiral Choi's image said from the holographic projector. They opened fire without warning, without any attempt at communication. The soul is gone, Mr. President. Good people died today because these aliens decided shooting first was better than talking. General Kim Tae-jun, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. Admiral, what's your assessment of their military capability? Numerically superior, sir. They have a lot of ships, but their technology is limited. Energy shields that can't stop kinetic weapons. Plasma cannons that are impressive but slow to target. They're used to fighting enemies who use the same technology they do. Recommendations? Deploy the real fleet, sir. Show them what happens when you kill humans. President Yoon looked around the room at the faces of world leaders. The decision was unanimous without anyone needing to speak. Authorization granted, she said firmly. Fleet Admiral Kang, deploy battle groups 7 through 15. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. These aliens wanted to meet humanity's military. Let's introduce ourselves properly. Within hours, the hidden shipyards of Luna, Ceres, and the outer planets came alive with activity. Massive vessels that had been quietly building for decades emerged from concealed docks. Ships that dwarfed the diplomatic fleet, carrying weapons. That had been theoretical until now. Captain Lim Hyok stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Incheon Thunder, watching as his battle group prepared to jump to hyperspace. Around him, 47 other ships, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels, formed up in attack formation. Sir, his communications officer reported, all battle groups report ready for jump. Admiral Kang sends her compliments and says to give them hell. Communications open a channel to all Zephyrian frequencies, Captain Lim ordered. Let them know we're coming. Channel open, sir. Zephyrian Empire, this is Captain Lim Hyok of the Earth Defense Force. You attacked. Our diplomats, you killed our people. You wanted to see what humanity could do when we stopped being polite. Congratulations. You're about to find out. We're coming for you, and we're bringing friends. The transmission ended. Captain Lim turned to his navigation officer. Take us to hyperspace. Time to show these aliens why you don't attack humans. The Incheon Thunder and her battle group vanished into the darkness between stars, racing toward a war that the Zephyrians had started, but would not finish. Behind them, 7 more battle groups prepared to follow. The first Zephyrian outpost to fall was Rigel Station, a massive fortress that had guarded the Empire's borders for 3 centuries. Commander Gixaval had been confident when the human ships appeared on his sensors. 12 vessels against his battle station and its fleet of 30 defenders. The odds seemed favorable. That confidence lasted exactly 14 minutes. Captain Oh Seung-min stood on the bridge of the Earth destroyer Gwangju, watching as the ancient fortress burned in space. Around him, his small task force had systematically dismantled what the Zephyrians considered an impregnable stronghold. Sir, Lieutenant Park Jinwoo reported from the weapons station. All enemy vessels destroyed or disabled. The station's shields are down. Main reactor offline. Any survivors requesting rescue? Captain O asked. Yes, sir. 17 escape pods launched before their ships exploded. Bring them aboard. Full medical treatment. We're not animals. This scene repeated itself across dozens of star systems as human battle groups struck deep into Zephyrian territory. But what surprised the galaxy wasn't the speed of human victories. It was what happened after. On the planet Zerion 4, former Zephyrian slave soldiers stood in the central square of their capital city, watching as human marines secured the area. For 40 years, they had lived under Zephyrian rule, forced to mine precious metals for the Empire's war machine. Commander Lee Jisoo removed her helmet as she addressed the crowd through her translator device. People of Zerion 4, you are free. The Zephyrian garrison has surrendered. This world belongs to you now. An elderly Zerian named Guktal stepped forward, his scaled face showing confusion. What tribute do you require, new masters? We're not your masters, Commander Lee replied firmly. We don't want tribute. We don't want slaves. Your world is yours to govern as you choose. But you conquered us. That is how it works. The strong rule the weak. That's how the Zephyrians worked. It's not how humans work. Commander Lee gestured to her Marines who were distributing medical supplies and food packages. We came here to stop the Zephyrians from enslaving people. Mission accomplished. Similar scenes played out on 37 different worlds as human. Forces systematically liberated the Zephyrian Empire's conquered territories. Each planet was offered the same choice: independence, protection, and help rebuilding. Meanwhile, Admiral Im Gayung commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled as it approached the Zephyrian core systems. 215 vessels, including ships that most humans had never seen before. Admiral, Captain Yoon Minsu reported from the science vessel Daejeon. We're detecting massive enemy formations ahead. At least 400 ships defending the Bellatrix system. Expected, Admiral Im replied calmly. Commander Huang, deploy the stellar engineers. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for centuries. The vessels that the Zephyrians had assumed were support ships suddenly revealed their true purpose. Massive beam arrays designed for moving asteroids and building. Space habitats turned their attention to the enemy fleet. The Zephyrian shields, which had protected their ships for generations, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. The stellar manipulation technology that humans used for construction in space proved devastatingly effective against military targets. Zephyrian fleet, Admiral Im broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Im Gayung of the Earth Defense Force. Your shields are gone. Your weapons are outranged. You have 30 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate what our actual weapons can do. High Commander Velnoth of the Zephyrian Third Fleet stared at his tactical display in horror. His shields hadn't been destroyed. They had been turned off. The human beam had somehow interfered with the very technology that generated them. Sir, his weapons officer stammered. Our targeting systems can't lock onto the human vessels. They're using some kind of jamming technology we've never encountered. How is this possible? Velnoth demanded. They're primitives, kinetic weapons and nuclear missiles. Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet. The hologram showed a human woman in a dark uniform, her expression businesslike but not cruel. When she spoke, her words were translated into perfect Zephyrian. Commander, my name is Admiral Im. Your empire attacked our diplomatic mission without provocation. Your people have enslaved 37 worlds and killed billions of innocent beings. This ends now. We surrender, Velnoth said quietly. Smart. Choice. Order your ships to power down weapons and prepare to be boarded. You'll be treated according to human military law, better than you treated your slaves. On Zephyr Prime, Emperor Zakthul watched the reports streaming in from across his empire. System after system falling to human forces. Fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries swept aside like toys. And worst of all, the reports of liberated worlds celebrating their freedom. My lord, his chief advisor whispered, perhaps we should consider negotiation. With what? Zakthul snarled. They've destroyed our fleets, freed our slaves, and turned half the galaxy against us. What do we have left to negotiate with? The answer came 12 hours later, when human forces entered the Zephyr system itself. The Emperor's personal fleet, the pride of the Empire, lasted exactly 23 minutes against the human advance guard. "Sir," his communications officer reported with a shaking voice, "the humans are requesting a meeting. They want to discuss terms." Emperor Zakthul looked out at the human fleet surrounding his homeworld. Hundreds of ships, each one representing technology his empire couldn't match. "Very well," he said finally. "Let's see what these humans want to discuss." But deep down, he already knew. The Zephyrian Empire was finished. They had rung the bell, and Earth had answered. Emperor Zakthul stood alone in his throne room, staring out at the human fleet that surrounded Zephyr Prime like a metal cage. 300 ships hung in space around his homeworld, each one a reminder of how badly he had miscalculated. The great Zephyrian Empire, conqueror of 47 worlds, reduced to begging for mercy from aliens they had dismissed as primitives. "My lord," his aide whispered from the doorway, "the human admiral has agreed to meet with you." "But sir, they want the meeting to take place aboard their flagship." Zakthul's mandibles clicked in frustration. Even in defeat, the humans were dictating terms. But what choice did he have? His fleets were destroyed, his territories liberated, his empire crumbling around him. "Very well, prepare my shuttle." 30 minutes later, Emperor Zakthul found himself in the conference room of the human dreadnought Soul's Revenge, facing 3 officers who held the fate of his species in their hands. Admiral Choi Daehyun sat in the center, flanked by Admiral Kang Ji-won and Admiral Im Ga-young. Their expressions were professional but cold. "Emperor," Admiral Choi began without ceremony, "let's discuss the terms of your surrender." "Surrender?" Zakthul straightened in his chair. "I came here to negotiate a peace treaty between equals." Admiral Kang leaned forward slightly. "Emperor, with respect, you are not our equal. You attacked our diplomatic mission without provocation. You killed 300 of our people. Your empire has enslaved dozens of worlds and committed genocide against species that couldn't defend themselves. There will be no negotiation, only surrender." Zakthul felt his heart sink. "What are your terms?" "Complete dissolution of the Zephyrian Empire," Admiral Im stated flatly. "All conquered worlds will be granted independence. All slave species will be freed. Your remaining military forces will be disbanded. And my people? What becomes of us?" "You will be relocated to a single star system under human supervision," Admiral Choi replied. "You'll have everything you need to survive and rebuild your civilization. But you'll never again threaten another species." Zakthul stared at the human officers, trying to understand how it had come to this. "The crystal," he said suddenly. "The artifact we found. What was it really?" The 3 admirals exchanged glances. Admiral Choi spoke carefully. "You really don't know, do you?" "Know what?" "The crystal was a quarantine beacon, Emperor. Placed there 12,000 years ago by the Andrathi Collective after they made first contact with early human civilizations." Zakthul felt ice form in his blood. "Quarantine?" "The Andrathi were an advanced species much like yourselves. They explored the galaxy, catalogued civilizations, sometimes conquered weaker species. Then they found Earth." Admiral Kang continued the story. "Humans at that time were barely out of the Stone Age. No space travel, no advanced technology. The Andrathi expected easy conquest. Instead, they found something that terrified them." "What?" Zakthul whispered. "Potential," Admiral Im said simply. "Humans were tool makers, problem solvers, survivors. The Andrathi ran projections on what humanity might become given time and technology. The results scared them so badly that they chose to quarantine us rather than risk conflict. The beacon was their warning to other species," Admiral Choi explained. "It said, essentially, do not disturb the humans. Leave them alone and they will leave you alone. Wake them up and face the consequences." Zakthul's voice was barely audible. "And we activated it." You activated it. You sent a signal across the galaxy announcing that someone had found the beacon and decided they were ready to meet humanity. You rang the dinner bell, Emperor. Did you really think we wouldn't answer? The Emperor looked around the sterile conference room, trying to process what he was hearing. But why? Why did you stay hidden for so long? With your technology, you could have conquered the entire galaxy centuries ago. Because we didn't want to, Admiral Choi said simply. Earth has everything we need. Our solar system provides resources for billions of people. We were content to explore, to learn, to grow. We had no interest in empire building. Until you forced our hand, Admiral Kang added. You attacked our diplomats. You chose violence over peace. You made us choose between showing weakness and showing strength. And now the galaxy knows we exist, Admiral Im said. The quarantine is broken. There's no going back. Emperor Zakthul slumped in his chair, finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake. What happens now? Now, Admiral Choi stood up. Now humanity takes its place in galactic civilization. We'll establish diplomatic relations with peaceful species. We'll protect worlds that can't protect themselves. And we'll make sure that what your empire did to others never happens again. The galaxy is about to change, Emperor, Admiral Kang said. And it's changing because you couldn't leave well enough alone. 3 days later, Emperor Zakthul signed the formal surrender aboard the Soul's Revenge. The Zephyrian Empire officially ceased to exist, its territories becoming independent worlds under human protection. As his shuttle carried him away from the human flagship for the last time, Zakthul saw workers installing something new in orbit around his homeworld. A massive crystal structure, beautiful and ominous, broadcasting a signal into deep space. What is that? He asked his pilot. A new beacon, my lord. The humans are placing them throughout this region of space. What does it say? The pilot checked his instruments. It's broadcasting in every known language, sir. The message is simple. Humanity was here. Do not disturb. Zakthul closed his eyes and tried not to think about what other species might receive that message in the years to come. He had rung the bell and awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. Now the galaxy would have to live with the consequences.